Hey, g'day, it's Prezone. Thanks for stopping by. Now, this is episode 2 of upcycling a very cheap lava lamp into something that looks retro cool, something that you might have seen in a 1960s or 1970s living room. And in the first episode of this build, I made this aluminium casting, which was to replace this rather boring looking conical pressed metal piece that was the original base for the lamp. And what I want to do in this episode is to get these two parts assembled back onto this rocket fin base here. So these parts are aluminium, they're going to get polished to a mirror finish, and then I need to do a lot of finishing work on this casting. It's only semi-finished at this stage. Now also, long story short, I screwed up the casting when I made this part and I lost the bottom of these three fins. Oh man! Oh, you're kidding me. Well, that celebration was short-lived, wasn't it? So it didn't quite fill up to form that foot there. It just didn't fill with metal in the mould. So I want to make some pseudo-retro rocket bases to go underneath these fins here. That'll just be some lathe work. We'll get that assembled. We'll do all of the polishing work, get it all back together again and see what it looks like. But first, I've got a new sticker to go on the door, so let's get that up and talk about the owner. Now, today's sticker comes from Thailand, a place called Pattaya, and it belongs to a channel called My Mini Home Workshop. Now, there's a link in the description and there's one up above there now. Now, the owner is Paul Cade. He's a fellow Aussie, but he lives in Thailand, and he recently built a beautiful little tool and cutter grinder basically from scratch. And I would recommend checking out his channel. He does some metal casting, lots of metal machining, and the video is quite interesting. So check it out, Paul Cade, My Mini Home Workshop. The first job today is to drill and tap some M4 holes in the bottom of each one of these fins. I'm going to do that in a collet chuck in the spindle, and I've got a sort of a makeshift drilling spindle set up here in the compound slide. So I'm going to just index this around by hand. I've got center punch marks in the bottom of each of the fins, so I just need to set the drill bit the correct diameter or radius, and we can just index that around and find each one of these little center punch marks and drill. Okay, I've got that lined up as best I can there, but the drill bit will find the center punch mark. And when I start drilling, I don't want to go deeper than 10, probably go about 8. So I've got the DRO set up to track the position of the drill point, but I'm just going to spot drill each of the positions first, and then we'll follow up with a 3.5mm drill bit. Now, for some reason that third one was a bit out, but I do want the drill hole to be in the center of the base of the fin there. So even if they're not exactly concentric with the axis here, it doesn't really matter. Now, did you know that you can buy ankle lube in Australia now? Now, this is a sample that was sent to me by a gentleman named Frank Luz. He's got an eBay store. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to buy some. This is a 2 fluid ounce bottle, but I think he's got 8 ounces as well. And the shipping is very reasonable because it's coming from within Australia. But I'm going to get some more because this stuff's great. I'll just get these threads started and I'll finish them off on the bench. I've hacksawed off the little spigot which was cast into this part when I made it, and I needed that to hold it while I machined the underside of the rocket nozzle here. And this has got an M10 by 1mm pitch thread, and I need the same thread at the top here. Now, I couldn't drill all the way through when I made this part because I would have lost the spigot. So I've got a threaded mandrel here. We're just going to spin that on, and I'll do all the machining on the top of the nozzle here. That should be good. Okay, so that's our little light fitting. So that will go through the base of the original part of the lamp and it'll lock everything together. I'm going to make these 3 retro rocket nozzles now which go on the base of the fins, and I've just turned up some scrap aluminium stock here to be the correct outside diameter, or very close to it. And I'm going to machine these with the foot facing outwards so I can drill and counterbore for that M4 socket head cap screw. And I'm using my Tornado profile copying attachment here. So this yellow template has been laser cut, and that shape you can see projecting out of the template there is half the profile of the nozzle that I want to machine. So what I'm going to do first is I'll run a parting tool in on the back of this stock here to undercut it, and then we'll turn this profile and then I'll just part it off to finish. Now, these feet have to be 15mm long, so I'm going to offset that distance on the DRO, and we'll just run that 2mm wide parting blade in twice, give me a 4mm undercut. Okay, I'll give that a clean up and just deburr that hole, and that one's finished. Okay, so there's the 3 feet assembled on the bottom of the fins. The light fitting will go on that threaded coupling at the top there, and I'm going to need to work out a way of restraining the cable on the underside of this part here, and I may end up reusing this part here. So it's already got the correct shape cut out in that base there. I can just cut that out and flatten it and put it on the bottom here. But what we need to do now is get all of the polishing work done on this part and the 2 original parts from the lamp. Okay, I think that's where I'm going to stop with this. I just use this paste type polish. It's called Auto Sol, and it's just for automotive use. And even though that looks pretty good on the camera, there are defects in it, as you can see there, and that's just a consequence of making this from a casting. That void there, or that depression below the surface, is probably around about 1 millimeter deep. And that would mean taking all of that stock off that surface to get to the bottom of that little pit there. So I don't think I'll be doing that. Now, earlier on I said that I might just bead blast this, and that would almost certainly give you a more uniform finish, and you wouldn't see all the tiny little blemishes and so on. But I think, given what it is, I think this sort of shiny polish finish is pretty good. So now we need to get on to the main body of the lamp and get that polished up to at least this stage. Sanding off the powder coat from this main body is fairly straightforward. I've got a big piece of wood in the 3-jaw chuck here, and I've machined a shoulder on that, and the inside of this conical section fits over that, and I can just support that with the tailstock, and it's just going to dry through, mainly through friction. And I'm going to just run this at low speed, and I'll sand the outside of this with, I don't know, Scotch-Brite sandpaper to see what works really. Alright, that's working really well. That's a fine 3M sanding sponge. I've got an ultra fine one there. Still a bit of the powder coat to come off, but I've got to get some more clearance around this tailstock. No, not a lot of room. I'll just try some of this 800 grit wet and dry. I'll do it dry. Just going to try some of this auto sol on here, but this might work better on the buffing machine. We'll just give it a go. It's not bad, it's still a bit dull though. I think this will work better on the buffing machine and buffing from top to bottom, so the scratch marks go along the axial length. I'll get the cap done up at the same stage though. Just having to do this nose piece out of the lathe. Luckily, whatever this is, it comes off quite easily. It's probably paint. I thought it was powder coat, but it's probably just a liquid paint. And this is specifically the problem with cheap products these days. They generally will paint straight over a bare metal surface with no surface preparation whatsoever. It looks good for about 5 minutes, and then you find after 1 or 2 years the finish starts to flake off because the metal underneath will oxidize and just lift the paint right off it. If you're going to do this properly, you need to have some sort of chemical treatment on the bare aluminium, then some sort of a primer, and then your top coat, whatever that is. So I'll just put this back. We'll do it with the wet and dry, and then yeah, we'll polish it all on the buffing machine. And I'm just using a little aluminium stub there with a rubber washer glued to the end of it so I don't mark the aluminium on the top there. Alright, give that a go on the buff. Alright, that's starting to come up pretty good there now, but there's still a fair way to go, and I won't bore you with watching me polish metal. What you have to do though is you've got to be consistent, and you've got to work your way up through the different grades of abrasives and polishes and so on. If you jump too far ahead, you'll leave scratches in the material that you can't get out with the finer grades of polish and abrasive. Then you've got to go right back and start again. So I'll keep at this. I'm pretty sure we can get this to a fairly good mirror finish. Nearly got there. Damn it. I guess that was on the cards, wasn't it? What you saw me trying to do there was to make clearance for this cable gland, and I've decided that this is a better solution than the original clamp that came with the lava lamp when I bought it. But in order to make that fit, I needed to drill it out to 1/2 inch and then counter bore or counter drill to 20.5 to clear the nut on the back of that. And I only had this screwed onto an aluminium threaded mandrel, and the drill bit caught and just sheared that mandrel off. Should have made it out of steel, but there you go, I thought I'd get away with it. But what I need to do now is to make a circular aluminium plate to go in that recess and screw that on. Then I can get that fitted, get the wiring done, and we can get it all together. I just sort of marked out and drilled a piece of thin aluminium sheet there, and I'm going to pressure turn this now to the correct diameter to fit the counter bore in the bottom of the rocket nozzle. So I just got a little mandrel in the collet chuck there, and we'll just pressure turn this by clamping it against that little mandrel. Okay. Okay, I'll go and drill and tap the corresponding holes in the bottom of the rocket nozzle, and I'll get it assembled and show you. Well, as you can see, I've got this all polished up, put back together again. The cable gland fits in the base of that rocket nozzle really nicely, and that keeps that wire quite secure and it can't yank out of there. Now I ended up replacing the lamp holder with a better quality one, and this one has brass screw terminals on the inside. The original one was really cheap plastic, and it basically broke when I tried to remove the wires. So just like press in wire connections, which I was not happy about using. So that's all in there, the lamp's in there now. And the nose cone's all polished up, but as you can see, that just rests on there, and I'm not real happy about how this whole arrangement fits together. It doesn't seem very secure. So what I'll do is put a few spots of silicone adhesive on the inside of that cap, put that on there. You can remove it if necessary, and I'll do the same with the glass bottle fitting inside the base there. So I'll just put a few spots of silicone in there. You do need to remove this part if you want to change the lamp, and the lamps don't last forever, so that will need to come out at that point. Now overall, really happy with the way this has turned out. Now somebody commented on the last video and they said, why don't you just buy one from Mathmos, because they make this style with the rocket fin base. Well, the thing is, I live in Australia. Often companies won't ship something like this to Australia, and if you can get them to ship it, the cost is eye-wateringly high. So the other thing was that I've never tried to do a casting where you have to cope down. So that was just part of my learning experience. I was keen to see how that would turn out. And it's customized. This is quite different to the one you can buy from Mathmos, and I just like the aesthetic. Now I'm going to get this heated up now and show you what it looks like when it's running and it's hot. And in the next video, I will be making a table for this to sit on. Now again, it will be in the mid-century modern aesthetic, and it's got some interesting techniques and materials, so I invite you to come back and have a look at that. and I've got some wildlife footage to show you as well. But for now, thanks for watching. I'll see you again on the next video. It's Prezzo signing out. Cheers. No.